if you have any inspirational story of a student, or that you want to share with us, that had a transformation, or had a positive outcome after being the community tech.
It's a really good question. It's interesting. We serve the Jewish community, all types, the whole spectrum, people who are religious, secular, everything, older, younger. And I remember we had a kid. Also, we had like a 19-year-old kid. He never been to high school. This is like he was raised in like a Hasidic kind of community.
Hmm.
No high school, no skills training, nothing. Just went to yeshiva, came out, and he worked so hard. And I remember he had such a passion to like he felt like I really need to do this. I really need to get these skills. We have a few of these stories, but I remember with him, his kid was Mendel. His name was Mendel,
Hmm.
and Mendel worked incredibly hard, and had so much tenacity. He was so proactive. Like you could like look at him. Like when people are in a class and you see the look, like their attention,
Yeah.
you can tell who's paying attention. I mean, I've been a teacher for over a decade. I actually only like 18 years, and like I could tell you when a student is not listening, I could tell right away, just like when you're talking to a person. He was
Yeah.
always attentive, he had great projects, he did great work. So when we introduced him to an employer right away, the employer could say, wow, this kid who doesn't have a high school education, doesn't have any education whatsoever, is proactive, is interested, and is ready to act. And he
Yeah.
did. He not only did he do really well in the job he was in here in Toronto. He also got married and he moved to Baltimore and he moved up to even a higher ranking job in cybersecurity. So
Very nice.
that's a very inspiring story. To this day, he called me before his wedding. He invited me to his wedding. He's like so happy. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be able to support a home and get married. That stuff really warms my heart. And
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, work ethic and motivation go a long way. So I think I would argue these are the main things that someone needs to get ahead. Um,
absolutely.
Another big audience that we have are newcomers to Canada. Many of them kind of in midlife already had a career. Do you see these types of people also being a fit for the courses?
Yeah, it's like we've just had some iterations where we had people who are midlife, and it's interesting. I've had conversations with them because people who are in midlife, I'm like myself. I have one child is like 19, another 22-year-old kid. So it's an interesting phenomena because people are like, what am I going to do? My type of life, there are jobs out there for me. There's a lot of worries. There's a lot of concern
Hmm.
because a person who's in midlife is thinking, oh, there's probably someone younger than me that could do a better job than me, or is quicker than me, or et cetera, more agile. So to those people, I'd say, no, you already have a lot of experience with you. You bring all of that experience, all of that work experience, all of that stuff with you. And you already built some kind of resume, and now you're adding on to those skills. You're upskilling, and when you upskill, you're building on to the scaffolding that you already have. And I
Hmm.
think and we've seen it with a lot of people, but the whole thing is people in middle age, it's like, yes, you can get to that level, but the important thing is to be proactive. It's an interesting thing. Like when you're middle age, you've gone through a lot, you have your family, you've raised a family, let's say, or you've gone through a lot of work, but you have to say in your mind, okay, I've gone this far, I have these skills, and you have to continue being proactive. That's the important thing, is confidence, I think, for a lot of people. I think that's what I would say. And I say with a lot of people, it's like a psychological thing, is that you can do it, you can have the skills, you have a background, and you can do it. And I encourage those people and I see them thrive. I just have to, we have to stick with them. It's
Yeah,
important. And it's interesting,
absolutely.
as today, you have on the one hand, you have kids, younger people, and then you have middle-aged people. Both of them, a lot of time, there's like like a confidence issue,
Hmm.
because the young kids are just starting off, and they're
Yeah.
they're like, what am I going to do? How am I going to get work? It's so
Yeah,
different.
in the newcomers, for them, they have had oftentimes a certain status, already a network in their home country. For us, it's typically Israel, right? A small
Yeah.
country where, you have your connections running with you for so long, and different milestones in life that are important. And here are maybe less regarded or completely unknown, right? And it's kind of starting from scratch.
That's right.
In many ways, it can be quite scary. And there's also the whole aspect of Canadian experience, right? That's kind of a sort of a myth, right? That we're trying to dispel, that a lot of the Canadian experience that companies are looking for is cultural fit, right? They want to know that you have the skills, but also that you know how to speak the language in the Canadian workplace. Which brings me to the next question, actually, where I know that you have connections with employers in the community, both Jewish, but also, large tech companies.
Yep.
So your graduates are getting some sort of assistance to be introduced into the market?
Yeah, we work with them. We work with different companies. We check in with companies, what's going on with them and what they're looking for. We try even before we start courses. We try to speak with companies and set things up before the courses even start, so that we already have like possibilities. We have opportunities for students once they leave. So it's an interesting time that we're living in right now because of the economy. I know in Canada and the United States, there's a high inflation and there's a lot of problems, but there are companies that are interested and they know that they need to have data work, let's say, or bookkeeping for sure. These are necessities. Without these things, a company can't survive. So we do talk to companies. We have a few different companies that we are in conversation with. And yeah, and I'm constantly checking in with them to see what's going on and like where they're at. Again, it's like a life, like in October, it's one thing. What's it going to be like? What's it going to be like in February? How are things going to, well, things change. Things could get better. Things could get worse, but at
Yep.
least we have that relationship and we have to be honest, and we have to like say, okay, this is where they're holding, you can't, companies usually hire when there's a big boom. Like in the tech industry, a lot of people may or may not know this, but the tech industry, there was like a huge boom for a long time, and then there was a point where companies like Google and Facebook, Meta, and other companies were firing people like at like 10 to 15% of their
Yep.
workforce, shave off because they had spent and they overhired.
Hmm.
So now I think we're going to go back into another phase. The markets seems to be going. The tech market is going up.
Yep.
Definitely AI, all these stocks, things are starting to rise, even though there have been some hits, with the tariffs, for instance, in Canada against the United
Hmm.
States, the relationship between the United States and Canada. That's definitely affected a lot of companies. A lot of companies are very worried. The market, the American stock market's worried about that. But I think that all leveled out after Donald Trump said that he's going to have like a 10% standard tariff as opposed to 25%. Although there are different tariffs in different industries in Canada that are still very high. Like I
Right.
think in steel and aluminum are still pretty high. So, but that's not going to affect what we do. That's because we're working in the tech
Yeah.
industry.